67, I believe, page of the printout. We are from the bottom of the page, and we were speaking about the pasuk of Axre Hashem Alekechem Telechu. We spoke about that Axre means the level of dealing with Achrayim, dealing with the levels of the back, levels that are external in Hashem's will. Things dealing with this world, that has to be dealt with and put aside before we get into davening. Elech was the level of Ava. Then we spoke about Oisei Tiro, that's higher level of Bittul, higher level of Yira. We're going to elaborate a little bit more on that Yira. And then there's the idea of in Torah learning that follows that it has to be the Torah learning is with Bittul when it's based on what we had before, the levels of when we had before the levels of the Abba and the Yira. So then that ensures that when we learn Torah, it's in a way of the bittul, the appropriate bittul that should be. So we're actually holding by a place in the Maimer where he's really going to like sum up and like bring all this together that we just now said before going on further. So we're holding, I believe, 10 lines from the bottom of page 167, the fourth page in the copies, and let's see from the word ubechadei. Again, I think it's from the 10 lines from the bottom of the page. The line begins uba'ofen, and the middle of the line ubechadei. So here's what he's saying, what we just now said before, that to be able to reach a level of Torah learning, which is emes v'yativ, it's a level that it's true and it's steadfast and it's the reality of Torah, not the divisions that we said before, that Reuven and Shimon is a level of divisions, be able to have the level of truth, that's through bittul before. So the study of Torah should be in such a manner that it's in the way of emes v'yatziv, that the person has a complete recognition that it's the Shekhinah sitting across from him and learning Torah, etc. Through having initially at the beginning the avodah of going after the level of Achrayim, and then having the level of Halicha, the level of traveling, Shuhu Hachanu L'Tfilah. There's the level of the Achrayim, we said, the back, the external, that's the preparation for davening, the level by Tikkun Chatzos, Gam by Zbonnus, by Shtalshus Sha'ara Balvad, also meditating in the Seder Shtalshus, that's only a Ha'ara. That's why it's called the level of Achrayim, that's why it's called the level of the back, because it's only external to Hashem. What we talk about in Psukei de Zimra is only the external parts, the parts of the Rei of Hashem that has to do with the creation. And also included in this is also the Achre, like we said before, is the external things, those things are from Hashem's external will. That's the preparation for this in Tikkun Chatzos. Through having this preparation, the level of Achrayim and the level of the back, the level of the Chitzonius, like we said before. So therefore, and afterwards, you can come to the level that you will go. Shuhu Ava, that's the level of love. That's in the first parsha of Krishma. Then there's the avodah of you shall have awe before him, shall fear him. So we said before that that's the idea of the second parsha of Krishma. You have V'hayim Shmaya Tishmu, at the level of Shmiya, the level of hearing, shows that it's at a distance. That's the level of Yira, it's the level of Shuv. He's pulling back because of his fear. V'ahavta is the first parsha of Krishma. Also, it speaks about Yishamru Lachem, Pen Yiftal Avavchem. These are also things having to do with fear. So that's all in the second parsha of Krishma. Because of the combination of the love that he has, that's expressed in the first parsha of Krishma, and he has the level of awe that's expressed in the second parsha of Krishma, V'hayim Shmaya Tishmu. He comes to observing your mitzvahs, which is also one of the parts of that pasuk. אחרי אלקיכם תלכו, תשמעו, it says, tishmaidu, because Ava v'yira, love and awe of Hashem, brings him to the observance of the mitzvahs. But the Ava v'yira troven, Aroy sheyes mitzvahs tishmaidu. Here he's saying in Yiddish an expression that indicates that the love and awe, where do they express themselves? How does the love and awe of Hashem express itself? It gives expression through the idea of Torah mitzvahs. How do I express my love for Hashem? Where do I show my awe for Hashem? By doing the mitzvahs aseh, I'm expressing my love for Hashem. By keeping away from the loises, I'm expressing my fear and awe of Hashem. To kiyum mitzvahs, it's the idea of the mitzvahs, shehu b'parshas tzitzis. So here we get to the third parsha in Krishma. First two parshas are Ava v'yira. So the third parsha is about mitzvahs. Where do we see the idea of mitzvahs? So we say because it's the parsha that deals with tzitzis, and we know tzitzis is a schartem is called mitzvahs Hashem. That by looking at the mitzvah, that the tzitzis, you remember all the mitzvahs of Hashem, because tzitzis encapsulates in it all the mitzvahs. Tzitzis im cheskot im behek shorim utayat. The gematria of the word tzitzis, which is 600, plus the 8 strands and the 5 knots, that is every strand of every corner of the beged, altogether at 613, indicating the 613 mitzvahs. So again, going from love to awe to mitzvah. Afterwards, you come to the avodah, that you shall listen to his voice, that we spoke about earlier in the Maimer. The idea of listening to his voice means make your ear hear, let your ear hear what you, meaning you, the Eibishter, we're saying. Ata is referring to the person, to the person's chavrusa, the person that we're saying, that the one who's sitting across from the person that's learning. Masha Ata that I'm looking at it, that you, Hashem, are taking it and bringing it out of the mouth of the Yid. So it's called his voice. The Torah is called his voice. Shehu, that this level, the idea of the Torah that you're listening to, that Shehu, Emes, V'yatziv, like we said before, that goes after the third parsha in Krishma. We go to Emes V'yatziv, which is going on Torah study. So now we're going to get to another part of the pasuk that we haven't begun to explain. It says after all of this, all of these parts of the psukim, all these parts of the pasuk, it says, and you shall serve him. The intention over here in the pasuk is not for the avoid of an ordinary servant. After all of these levels, he's being mizboinen and say to the shvalshus. He did tikkun chatzos to get away from all the external things. He has love, he has awe, he's learning Torah, he's doing mitzvahs. So we're not talking about oisit avoidu, an ordinary ever. That's already included, that's already way past earlier. So therefore, ein shaykh avoidu, because after all these levels, it's not applicable the avoid in such a manner, in such a way of being an avid pasha. The intention is the avodah of a faithful servant. He is totally bottled. The faithful servant is totally bottled to the Eibishter, a complete bittul. That level, the level of oisei ta'avoidu, where you have a complete bittul of a servant, of the faithful servant, not the ordinary servant. That's the bittul that we have there in Shemoneh Esrei. During Shemoneh Esrei, he's like a servant standing before his master, therefore he's standing straight, he's standing upright, etc. Bittul the Metzias. Batul Metzias, he completely loses himself. All of the levels that we spoke about before, whether it's tikkun chatzos, and whether it's there's oneness and Psukkah there's Zimra, whether it's the Abba for the first Parsha Krishma, whether it's the Yid of the second Parsha Krishma, whether it's Torah study, whether it's the Kima Mitzvahs of the third Parsha, and the Torah study following that, all of that is still Bitla Yeshel. Therefore, we know Bitla Yesh has to do with the worlds of Bri Yitzirasi. Therefore, it cannot reach the world of Atzilus. The world of Atzilus cannot be any type of Yesh over there, like it says about Atzilus. There's no entity other than Hashem over there. So it's only level of Bitl Hayesh. He doesn't reach in Atzilus. Because in Bia, we do not say that he and his life forces and he and his bodies, meaning he and the Oiris and he and the Kalim are one. There isn't a complete unity between the Eibishter and the Spheres in Bia. That is Bitl V'Metzias. He's completely bottled, has no other being, he's only a vessel for godliness. This specifically reaches in the level of Atzilus when a person has the bittul of Eved Ne'eman. So the Zogam Mashakasav Oisei Tavoidu Oisei Dai. That's why it says him you should serve. In other words, the Eibishter himself, not the levels of revelation and so on. It's the unity with the Eibishter. He's a keli for Elikus. So that's the level of the bittul in Atzilus. And this is what's always brought down in Chassidus, that the davening is like a rungs on a ladder, and because it's like rungs on a ladder, so therefore it will constantly go up until like the apex of that ladder. Also, we'll see that there's even a higher level than that, but there is a level of the that the Shemoneh Esrei, which is like the apex of davening, that's the level of Atzilus. That's the highest level, seemingly, that one can attain. The next paragraph, we're going to learn something even deeper. We're going to learn about a level that's even higher than the bittul of Atzilus as well. Any questions before we go on? Okay, fifth page in the Maimon, page 168. Also, the avoid of Shemoneh Esrei is insufficient. After the bittul of Shemoneh Esrei, then he's leaving now this eye of Shemoneh Esrei. He needs to now engage in the world. And therefore, he has to deal with the coarseness of the world, the material state of the world. It's possible that despite the fact that he went up so high, he reached a level of Atzilus, he could still perhaps fall from his level. Moshe Amrut by Chazal said, the Betfilah Tzarech Sheyiu Einav Lamata V'Liboy Lamayla. Says the Chazal described that the stance that a person has to have by davening is that his eyes has to be looking and facing downwards. In other words, not distracted by things around the world, etc., around him, but his heart has to be upwards. So Chassidus explains a deeper concept in this idea of his eyes, and his focus has to be below. Who the intention of what it says, his eyes has to be below. He says, has to forewarn what's going on below. Meaning, a person cannot so totally disassociate themselves from the physical world that when they leave davening, they are in such a culture shock and so completely surprised by the world that now they don't know how to handle it. The person needs to know how to interpret. Even when he's in davening, he needs to know how to apply it to the below, how to apply this to the physical. It's possible that by davening he's in an appropriate state of bittul. But afterwards, when he's involved in physical matters, he'll fall down. So that's why it has to be that you shall cleave in him. That's the final part of pasuk. You need to be connected with Hashem, and this we're going to explain is even greater than the level of the bittul of the Eved Nem. It's a totally different form of connection beyond even the bittul. What is the idea of the boises bakun? Like it says in the beginning of Chumash, it says about Adam Chava v'davak be'ishtoi v'hayu lebasar ech. They shall be like one flesh. The idea of dveikus, the idea of cleaving, means more than just like he's going to say just a keli. In Atzilus, when he's a level of Eved Neman, he's a keli for Hashem. But the complete unity is after Shemoneh Esrei. The v'hoyu lebasar echad, the voice of bakun, is after Shemoneh Esrei. Not only is he a vessel for it, becomes one thing with it. If the person is only a vessel, so you don't know what's going to happen afterwards. But if he becomes completely one with Elikus, so then it's impossible, or there's no worry and concern that he's going to fall. The reason why it's possible for a person to fall after davening, he knew because even by davening, he is still an entity for himself. But he's a vessel for the as opposed to when his bittul is that not only is he a vessel that he receives and he takes in the light, which means after all said and done, I am a vessel and I receive the light. So there's still a distinction. There's myself, the vessel, and there's the light. Like my Abish or Makabal Chayis, or like a limb and an organ of a body that receives and takes into it the life force and vitality of the neshama. So it's still, there's the body and there's the life force and vitality. Rather, he becomes completely one. Has a lot begging from them. So then it's not possible that he should leave this. That's the avoida of you shall cleave to him. Where in davening do we express the boisid bakun? If Shemoneh Esrei is the bittul of a keli to the oil, like an atzilus, like an Eved Neman, where in davening do we find this higher level of boisid bakun where you become completely one with it? Bittul the nefilas apayim אחרי הבittul Shemoneh Esrei. See, this brings down that by tachanun, when we fall on our face, that is like ishtachavo, we're completely bowing down. That is a greater bittul than just the kneeling or bowing of Shemoneh Esrei or standing like a servant before his king. That the Rebbe connects with the level of boisid bakun. That it's not that he's a keli for it, but he's completely one. So he's going to explain the idea behind this. Inyan Bezahu, the idea behind this is says concerning Eliezer that when he was waiting to see what Rivka would do over there by the well, so the man was like in a state like of shock or like completely at a loss, and he was silent to know what's going to occur with her. Will she fit into the whole story that he imagined? Basic finally Bittles has brought down about this that there's two types of bittul, the mishtar, shemalosh, and shemam. There's the bittul of mishtar, that's the word shemam in emptiness, like shock, complete loss. Bittul shemachre shalom ma'ila shemam. Then there's the idea of silence. The silence that's even higher than this type of shemam that he's saying. And he's going to explain. The shemamen means they completely loses his being, but he doesn't become part of that thing that he's lost. The bit of silence, that means that it becomes part of the thing. And there are three metaphors for this. At Mashal Echad, one metaphor, when a effort from a person that hears a very deep idea that's completely beyond him, he really has no perception, understanding of this topic, etc. Hearing this idea causes him to become totally confused. When they're based nit was with him is he doesn't know what's going on with him. With this, he loses his being. He doesn't become absorbed in a higher level. Then afterwards, afterwards, there's the bittul that becomes completely absorbed and taken by the idea as a nemtim, that it takes him. That's the idea of being silent to know. In other words, a level of knowledge that he's completely silent and absorbed in the knowledge. There's another example that's even more appropriate than this example. It's the analogy of planting a seed in the earth. Through planting the seed. So that's how you have that the tree grows, the fruit grows, etc. Who the order in this is. First, the seed needs to rot away. That's the first type of it. In the rotting away, he loses his being. And afterwards, he becomes part of the power of growth that's in the land and the earth. Only then becomes the growth from smallness to bigger. In other words, when you have the power of growth in the earth, that is innately part of the earth and becomes totally identified with that power of growth that's in the earth. So then you have the growing from a minor state to a larger state. That is only a secondary level. It's not losing himself like the seed becomes rotted away in the ground. Initially, he is lost and becomes nullified from his being. Until there's nothing at all in him. It's only a vessel for the matter that he wants that should become, it should come into it. But he still doesn't become part of the thing itself. But by falling on his face after Shemoneh Esrei, by Tachnun, that is the idea that he's not just becoming a vessel, but he's becoming part of it. It becomes intermingled. This becomes his entire being. Therefore, there's no concern, no worry that he will fall. It's not possible that he will leave. Like we said before, we are concerned that the person is out of this world, but the Lakus is not one with him. So when he enters the world and he engages with the world, so then he's going to lose himself in the world again. So he says, but over here, he doesn't have to be concerned because he's completely one with the Eibishter. So that's what it says in the Zohar, that the falling on the face is a very high, elevated level of bittul. Now the Rebbe adds another point, that by falling on the face, it's a level of hamshacha because of this great level of bittul, therefore can draw down from above a very high level. Now, he's going to challenge that. Shemoneh Esrei is also seemingly Hamshacha. What's the difference between the Hamshacha of Shemoneh Esrei and the Hamshacha of Nefilas Apayim? Before in the movement, seemingly it's not understood. But Igam Shemoneh Esrei bebitlu mitzias ka'av kamamare. Also by Shemoneh Esrei, he has a bitlu mitzias like a servant before his master. Begam Shemoneh Esrei yesh Hamshacha lamata, and also Shemoneh Esrei, there's the idea of being drawn down below. Where do we see this? The Zeu Chai brachas Shemoneh Esrei. Shemoneh Esrei has in it 18 brachas, except for the 19th that was added later on. Shehem K'moyachai Chuyas says that in the Shedra, in the spine, there are 18 vertebrae, 18 pieces, etc. And what's the purpose of the spine? The spine communicates and draws down from the brain everything to the rest of the body. That through it comes down life force, vitality in the entire body. So just like the 18 sections of the spine bring down the life force from the brain to the rest of the body, so too it's in the 18 brachas Shemoneh Esrei. Through that comes down the life force in the world. So we see that Shemoneh Esrei is also about Hamshacha. What's the novelty, uniqueness of the Nefilas Apayim that we say that over there we're drawing down from above? And you know what the idea behind this is? The bitl of Shemoneh Esrei is only a vessel, like we spoke about before. Bitl, the Nefilas Apayim biskalos, as opposed to the bitl of falling on the face, the level of tachnun is that he becomes intermingled. Hine bitl the kriyashma Shemoneh Esrei hu mesiras nefesh bekoyach hu mesiras nefesh mitzad haneshama. The bitl of kriyashma Shemoneh Esrei is the person that's ready to give up his life for Hashem, but it's all in a state of potential. It's all in the neshama. His neshama feels so inspired to be ready to completely give himself away to the Eibush. This doesn't matter. This doesn't involve the body. The bittul of Nefilas Apayim is a bittul of Mesiras Nefesh. In actuality, in the body, that's why he has the idea of falling on his face. And at times of old, they used to do a complete prostrating themselves on the ground, etc. In other words, the Mesiras Nefesh and the bittul is not just in the neshama, but the body as well. Similar to what's brought down about very great tzaddikim. And by name, this is told about the Baal Shem Tov, Shas Ali Yosef, when he had his aliyas on the neshama above, when his neshama rose above, his body was like an inanimate stone without any life or vitality whatsoever. Mitzad atzmai on its own, it had no physical life force and vitality in it. That's self-sacrifice in actuality, and from the body's perspective, not just a potential thing in the soul. The body was like an inanimate stone. So too is the bitl and self-sacrifice of the Nefilas Apayim. That's why when Nefilas Apayim, it will come down much, much lower. And therefore, we'll be able to engage with this world and not be worried that we're going to fall. Though we said before by Shemoneh Esrei, there's a level of Hamshacha, but the Hamshacha is in a way that it goes stage by stage. Since the self-sacrifice is not in the body, so you cannot bring the Hamshacha down in the physicality because you worry that then it's going to come to a negative place. Rather, just by when he has falling on his face, that the self-sacrifice is also in the body. Therefore, what's coming down is very, very much below, totally out of the Seder Ishtalshet. Now we're going to explain why it says the long nun. I'm sure you can guess. That's why it says Boisid Bakum with a simple nun, with a plain nun, meaning a long nun. In a nun pshuta, the long nun goes lower than the line. The drawing down is to very much below. Since he's holding on very high. Like we said before, the Filis Apayim is higher, even the Shemenes that's in the world of Atzilus. When it says you shall cleave to him, it's good, or in him, it's even higher than Atzilus. So it's therefore, it comes on very much below. You don't have to be worried about falling away. We'll stop over here.